Climate change. I am sure you heard of the term climate change before. Whether stemming from the news, social media, or from common conversations, climate change is there somewhere. And you first heard the term climate change, you might relate it to seeing news reporters explaining the abrupt changes in temperature or just general consequences of climate change. You might relate it to exhibitions or eco-market campaigns. Some people would relate it to politicians, decision makers, and prime ministers having conventions, speeches, and agreements on the international level, promising a better future for the next generations. Climate change is so important that countries around the world came together and said that climate action should be, and now is, one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, it is so urgent that the Paris Agreement, a landmark of all climate negotiations, was established as early since 1992. With the Paris Agreement's goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, it generated a big aspiration that the world could be stable once and for all. Everyone here is in hot pursuit of climate action, am I right? Well, people around the world are so aware of climate change. Decades before now, climate scientists came out and published evidence-based research confirming that climate change is a result of anthropogenic interference. Youth, especially in the West, were so aware that they came out for climate strikes, demanding for intergenerational equity. Awareness level of climate change is so high that the pressure was too much for politicians to just avoid actions against climate change. It came to their conscious mind that they have to do something to build up their reputation and fulfill the people's needs. And now, this is where conventions, agreements, and flowery speeches comes right in place. Since then, it has given young people hope and ambition. But now, these so-called promises are everything but the truth. If this is the truth, we are now seeing global warming and temperatures decreasing day by day. It means that currently, fossil fuel investments are being dramatically decreased as a result of transformative clean energy substitutions. Meaning that there is no one starving out to death because everyone here tries their very best to limit their carbon footprint. I do not want to state the obvious, because the obvious is heartbreaking. As of 2021, we have the highest carbon dioxide concentration in human history, period. Biodiversity in land and sea dropping so dramatically quickly in just a short time. Wildfires were torching millions and millions of acres in California and Australia. Something shocking when the records reached all-time high, but happening so often, it's now considered the norm. Some people, climate change may not matter because it's affecting plants and animals. Climate change may not matter when it's just a cliche for environmental conservators or animal rights advocates. But please, would you really say that's the case? The fact that mere human existence is the major cause of Earth's system disruption is already a guilt Mother Earth could never forgive. Mother Earth, who gave you life, biodiversity, natural formations, you then thank her by saving and destroying her very existence. If you still don't care about hearing the voices of nature or repaying the earth that gave you life, at least care about yourself, other people, and the next generation, if that's what's left of your human soul. Would you please imagine waking up in an air-conditioned room, doing your daily routines, and drinking hot beverages to start off your morning? It was again in your comfort, your normal day. But do you know what normal is like for people on the other half of the world without your privilege? Normal for them is waking up with the persistent questions of, will I starve again, like yesterday? Will my family have food to eat? In 4 years, there has not been a single rainfall in Madagascar. The lands were barren, droughts and famine were worse in 40 years. People there reached catastrophic levels of food insecurity and hunger you cannot imagine. Their only food source in 8 months were insects. Insects that were not even clean because they didn't have the water to do so. People in Madagascar are on the brink of climate change-induced famine. And this is just one case out of millions of people out there that is exposed to human-induced effects of climate change. And this would not be only the farmers in Fiji, the people in Madagascar, or the fishermen in sub-Saharan desert, but it will become your normal life, if not your children's normal life, and if not, your great-children's normal life, if they would be able to exist by then. Because climate change is not waiting for anyone. Whether we like it or not, climate change is or will be affecting our lives and livelihoods if we don't start being aware and acting now. Now meaning that start questioning whenever you turn on the AC the whole day and night that is one causes of PM 2.5. That the food waste you just left on your bowl this morning is going to the dumpster to emit harmful gases and to rot. That the mask you threw everywhere is going to hurt you through the microplastics you consume. All these selfish desires we seek in the short term is equal to the torture other people and eventually you would have to endure in the long term. And everyone here would agree with me that long before now, with the devastating consequences of climate change, that we should have learned to be aware of our lifestyle. Always questioning whether buying this product or throwing this trash will leave a permanent mark on our world. But unfortunately, everyone hasn't, and it shows. The Paris Agreement, as I mentioned previously, is a result of countries worldwide's strong commitment and huge ambition towards tackling the climate crisis. However, throughout 6 years of its adoption since 2015, there was not a single year we've succeeded in aligning with its goal. Climate neutrality, or achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050, was pledged. Statements and podiums were bold. Documents were stamped in red ink that says urgent. But what are the results? I'm sorry, hopefully it's not the sharp rise in carbon emissions. Politicians and decision makers coming out to give out their best speeches with the audiences hold in awe. But what are the results? If there are results, I wouldn't be standing here on behalf of the vulnerable, unemployed workers, youth with a damn future, or people in Madagascar. I wouldn't be standing here begging for justice when you, of all people, know that justice should be granted upon one's first breath. Dear my youth friends, we must open our eyes and learn from the past. The miserable past of how climate change and climate action is being put at the very back of the shelf, regardless of national and international commitments. The commitments that mask all of our dreadful reality. No matter how many climate change topics have converged in your life, or how many commitments were made, it will go down to nothing if there is zero action. No matter how aware you are, how knowledgeable, or how much of an expert you are about climate change, it will go down to nothing if there is zero action. But before we reach the topic of action, let's talk about how much great deal of privilege we all have. The fact that you're watching this from an electronic device or just interested in this climate change topic in the first place is already a gift the people without your privilege would sacrifice to have. The people I mean are the people who are struggling to live day by day, being mostly affected by climate change but not even knowing what climate change is. Even if they knew, they didn't have the opportunity to fix it. The important difference between us and them is not money, not power, not comfort. But what we have holds a priceless and incomparable value. What we have is the potential power to make change for the betterment of society, especially for the people like them. We, youth, are at the forefront of climate change. We can pull together and address a global challenge. We all have the creativity, enthusiasm, and burning passion. We can be the driving forces in advancing in climate solution. And the best question here to ask is, how do we start? How do we drive action when there is barely time left? First and foremost, educate yourself. Even though the school, the government doesn't provide you open and easy access to accurate information about climate change, know that you can start digging and pursuing for climate education. Look deeper into the causes, consequences, and the solutions of climate change. But most importantly, make sure that what you are finding is what interests you. What I mean is, for instance, if you're interested in fashion, educate yourself about sustainable fashion. If you're interested about startups or innovations, educate yourself about green entrepreneurship. Climate change can be tackled only if it is tackled all around the Earth's aspects. For example, the sports, the food, the infrastructure, the energy, and many more industries if we actually start to act, starting from educating ourselves. Second, have friends. You heard me right. We would have to find and build a youth network that we could support each other. Your level of awareness, knowledge, or passion might be 10, but when young people come together and support each other, that level of 10 increases to 100, to 1,000. So networking is an important factor and a factor that leads to my third point. Climate action. I am sure you heard of the quote, "Think globally and act locally." Of course, we should be aware and pay attention to national and international scales. But do not forget something that is equally as important, which is the actual implementation of these commitments. These are local solutions, local actions, and local policies. To address a global challenge, you cannot have one solution and tackle throughout the whole world. We must, because different countries and different places have different conditions and difficulties when tackling climate change. Therefore, we have to go into community-led projects in your school, in your village, or in your house. First, look into your house. Are you living the way you live sustainable enough? Are you using too much electricity? Look into your school. Is there excessive waste? Is there a way we can enhance the recycling system in our school? And also, connect your interests with local climate action. Ask yourself whether doing this work would be resilient to climate change, how can you work along with the people to make climate change solvable. A friend of mine started a company that takes over leftover fabrics from second-hand shops and then combine it with suitable fabrics. She then brings these suitable fabrics to a center of disabilities, employing these disabled people to just combine these fabrics together and then sell it as eco-friendly products. She showed youth how her passion for fashion and entrepreneurship blooms climate action. There are many opportunities out there that we could explore. Diverse initiatives that young people could be the one leading. Climate action, climate movement is going to be led by us, young people, if we actually invest in action. When we engage in the grassroots, focusing on climate action on the local level, it leads to my fourth point. Engaging in climate policies nationally and multilaterally. When you implement climate action in your local community, you gain experience and you work hand in hand with your community. And when the time comes, you would be able to speak on behalf of your local community, propose solutions through means of policy making. And then these politicians and decision makers would be more likely to listen to you. Therefore, to engage in the policy level, it is very important that we have to start driving local actions now. Remember the leaping: local action, education, policy engagement, and network. These four factors are crucial in attaining meaningful climate participation and action. If only we engage in the leaping, only then young people will become climate leaders shaping the world into a more sustainable future. In the end, society should not be in the place to thank us. But we, young people, should be in every aspect to thank the society. Thankful that the society has given us priceless opportunity for us to help them as well as our future along the way. Thank you.